And this story is a summary of how I went from growing up in the projects, being a high school dropout, and a signed recording artist, to becoming the first African American in the state of Illinois to run one of the largest governmental programs in the nation. This is a story about RAGS and resources. I was born and raised in Chicago. My parents divorced when I was just one, and they shared split custody. So I experienced what I consider the best of both worlds. It was a sequence of living with my mother for a few years in Cabrini Green, a housing project on the near north side of Chicago, and alternately living with my father for a few years on the south side of the city. If you're familiar with the television shows Good Times and the Jeffersons, then you have an idea of those dynamics, except my mom was a single mother raising 8 kids in the projects, and my dad was a Kojic pastor whose life was governed by the ideology of fire and brimstone, and he wasn't wealthy. Growing up, I sang in the choir, and like a shadow, I followed my father from church to church, him preaching holiness or hell, and me singing my little heart out. We were a dynamic duo. Both gainfully employed, my father and stepmother provided me with the best opportunities they could offer. On the flip side, life in the projects was extraordinarily difficult, notorious for violence, hardship, and deprivation. You had to be tough to survive there, or at least you would learn to be. It was a hard-knock life, but even with its adversities, I enjoyed being with my mother and my siblings. Most of the time, growing up in the hood was a ton of fun. In the summers, we cooled off in the hydrants and jumped double dutch. We went to visit the Candy Lady, or the Candy Man. There were house parties and dance-offs. We ran races and took walks from the White Walls to the Wild End, and then back again, which was easily a good 10 to 20 blocks. We made the best of what we had, and to date, I have an abundance of love for the friends who made me family. And if you've never experienced even a little bit of hood life, yeah, you sort of missed out. In elementary school, we had a gym teacher named Mr. White, who coached a tumbling team called the Jesse White Tumblers. He also had a drill team, and just about every kid in the neighborhood wanted to either be a tumbler, on the drill team, or both. And at any given point in a day, all over the neighborhood, you could find kids practicing their flips on old mattresses, or sitting on the crates and beating their buckets with sticks. We called them the Bucket Boys. Mr. White was a military man, and a force of reckoning. He was all about structure and hard work. He was hard on us at times, but he was also dedicated to the community, and we knew that he cared. He kept many of us out of trouble, and gave us opportunities we wouldn't have had without him. The Tumblers and the Bucket Boys were bred from an environment of humble beginnings. And it's fascinating to know that they're a pretty big deal all over the world now. Because of this experience, I'm always humbled to patron a bucket boy that I pass on the street. And whenever I see a tumbler flying high in the sky, I still get chills. My teenage years were tough. I was kicked out of high school for fighting, so I enrolled into an alternative high school called Double E. And I met a teacher there who really had a positive impact on me. I'm remiss in forgetting her name, but she reminds me of a Sour Patch Kid. Sour on the outside, sweet on the inside, and I liked her a lot. I found out that she was something called a Delta. I didn't know what that was at the time, but I knew that I wanted to be one too. The second alternative high school I attended was Nikola Tesla. It was an all-girls school for pregnant teens. At the age of 15, I was pregnant and having a baby. My father was devastated. For as much as he had worked in opposition, I became a statistic. Even still, I was lucky. My son's father, a teenager himself, was impeccable, and his family was an awesome support system for us. And even though I disappointed my father so tremendously, with the support of my stepmom, he quickly recovered. And that's a significant understatement. I landed my first job working at McDonald's. And after giving birth to my son, I attended my third alternative high school, Benjamin E. Mays, located at Kennedy King College. I met a friend named Shay. She could sing too, so we put together a routine, competed in the talent show, and we won. I was doing so well, and I would finally be getting my high school diploma. But I got caught in a quiet storm, and right on the cusp of graduation, I was kicked out of another program for fighting. Again! Getting kicked out of school was nothing new, except this time, it hurt. Shay and I continued singing together, and she introduced me to the music industry. I spent a lot of time in recording studios, where I truly evolved as a songwriter. We signed to a production company and joined a 5-girl group. We called ourselves Bugatti, which stood for Bad Girls of the Industry. And in those days, singing 5-part harmonies, dancing, and rapping made us a triple threat. Conditioning day and night, we were well-oiled machines ready for success. We landed a deal with Motown Records, but were quickly cut due to budget constraints, or so the incoming president told us. It was crushing. But before long, we secured a second recording contract as the first girls group on Death Row Records, and they made us a priority. We made a little noise on soundtracks like Gridlock and Gang Related, but ultimately, the label collapsed, and that was the end of Bugatti. Thanks to some connections I had in the industry, I got a job singing background for an up-and-coming artist named Selena Johnson. She was a phenomenal talent, and singing background for her was an awesome opportunity. She was booked everywhere, and I was back on the road again. We performed at classic venues like Radio City Music Hall and Soul Train. These were experiences of a lifetime. Working in the music industry was extraordinarily exciting, and it was full of adventure. But if you were smart, you learned the business industry. That's where I discovered the definition of networking. I learned about contracts and negotiation processes and the importance of doing good business. I experienced new cultures and met some of my closest friends today. But one of the funny things about life is that it's ever changing. Working in the music industry was sensational, but it was also uncertain, and time was passing. My son was growing older, and I wanted to be able to provide him with a stable childhood because I remembered how desperately I needed a true sense of stability as a child. And he was more than enough reason to sacrifice my pursuits as a performing artist. So I came off the road, and I got a job working in healthcare as a managed care marketing coordinator. One of the veteran coordinators taught me the ropes. I was a natural, working day and night and making great money. I moved my son out of the city and got us a 2-bedroom apartment in the burbs. I continued introducing him to new ideas, and I enjoyed my new job. Life was good. There was just this one small problem. I still didn't have a high school diploma, and I knew the company I worked for reserved the right to ask for it at any time. Haunted by the thought of losing the security I was providing for my son, I enrolled into a night program at South Suburban College. That's right, another alternative high school. At that time, I was in my mid-20s, and I didn't tell anyone but my father and my son that I was taking night classes. I'd been out of high school nearly a decade, and I was extremely insecure about walking into a classroom full of 16 and 17-year-olds. But I couldn't let my fears get in the way. After all, it was my own fault that I didn't graduate high school 10 years earlier. But now, I had at least one more chance to get it right. So I pushed my fears aside and kept my eyes on the prize. Those few weeks of classes flew by. I took the GED exam and passed. At last, I finally walked the stage to get my diploma. I was so proud to be deemed salutatorian out of a class of at least 30 or more. And I was also honored to be one of the student speakers at our graduation. It was such a remarkable feeling. And equally remarkable, I was offered a full academic scholarship to attend South Suburban College. Already, my good enough degree was taking me places. Oh, did I mention that I completed my program along with one of the other girls from Bugatti? Yeah, Tanea. She was valedictorian, and she had ironically enrolled into the same GED program at the same school at the same time, and that had not been planned. On another path together again. Can you imagine when we saw each other our first day of class? So here's this door to opportunity, and my mind became flooded with doubt. College? Am I even really college material? And what is college material? Hell, what is college? What do they do there? I don't belong there. I'm an artist. I create, I write, and I entertain. I have a child, and I have a job. I can't raise a child, work full-time, and go to school. Once again, anxiety was getting the best of me, but time was of the essence, and I had to focus. So I searched inward, and I weighed the odds. I took a deep breath, turned the knob, and I walked through that door of opportunity. And on the other side, I was yet again exposed to a completely different aspect of life. This was college life. Although it wasn't a traditional dorm life situation, attending South Suburban College was a tremendous experience. I adapted very well, and I took my education extremely seriously. So serious, in fact, I took 7 courses my first semester, 5 on campus and 2 corresponding. And although no one stopped me from jumping out that window, I survived, and I passed my very first semester of college with straight A's. I was shining like 24-karat magic. I felt unstoppable, and I had developed an entirely new level of self-confidence. And while I had no clue where the whole college thing was going, I knew one thing for certain. I would never take 7 courses within 1 semester again. College life was fascinating. Who would have thought me, sitting in the front row of my classes locked and loaded with highlighters and notepads every day? It was clear that my life experiences and opportunities up to that point had placed me in an entirely different mindset than I had been a decade earlier. I made the Dean's List every semester and gained membership into Phi Theta Kappa. I was even tutoring and mentoring other students. It was an incredible reality. Somehow, I had worked my way from being a problem to being a problem solver, and I was utterly proud of that accomplishment. My time at South Suburban flew by, and after completing my program, would you believe me if I told you I was offered another full academic scholarship to university? It's true. I was offered the outstanding opportunity to attend Governor State University. 2 full rides, back to back. It was an incredibly mind-boggling occurrence, but I didn't hesitate this time. I accepted my scholarship with quickness, and I wasn't sure what battles GSU had in store for me, but I was armed to the teeth and ready for the challenge. I majored in health administration, and I was a model student in Governor State. I still made the Dean's List each semester, and I continued to receive additional scholarships. University was so empowering. I even pledged a sorority. That's right, I became a Delta. These were extraordinarily momentous times in my life, and one of the most impactful dynamics of that time was reconnecting with my elementary school gym teacher. Remember Mr. White? Well, he was now the Illinois Secretary of State and one of the most recognized and revered elected officials in the nation. And he happened to be visiting Governor State to speak to the students there. Did you know, among his many amazing accomplishments, that he's also a Kappa man? Perhaps that explains his partiality for the crimson and cream. Interesting, right? I digress. Well, after pushing past the crowd, I finally got an opportunity to congratulate him and to tell him of some of my accomplishments since my days of living in the projects, and to thank him for being such a positive influence in my life and within our community. He was beaming with excitement for me, and it was such an amazing exchange of purpose, pride, and appreciation. He encouraged me to apply for a job at the state agency, and so I did, and I got hired. And after a few years of working in various training and managerial positions, I was offered the opportunity of a lifetime. I became the first African American director of one of the largest governmental programs of its kind in the nation. Now, I don't know, you tell me, but that might be just a little savage. As I look back on my life, I realize that life itself is ultimately an ongoing sequence of situations, decisions, and opportunities. Whatever the situation, the single most important thing we can do for ourselves is to practice making good decisions, and good opportunities will follow. It may take time, but eventually you'll get to where you're going. And the best part is that you don't have to know where you're going to get moving. All you need to know is that you want to be in a better position than you currently are. Be intentional in getting started and commit to your journey. You'll be provided all the help you need along the way. And it's okay if you have to start over a few times. Remember, it doesn't matter how many times you fall. It only matters how many times you get up. Keep getting up. And the point of it all is simple. Don't give up. Face your fears and know that you can be more than one person. Embrace your jagged edges, because they'll be the pillars of your strength. And know that at each new height you achieve, reach back and pay it forward by helping someone else. Now, are you ready for your next chapter? I'm ready for mine. Let the journey begin.